foundation was a lot worse than we thought. Like, we're probably going to have to tear that down. And I said, no, you're not.
Welcome back to the Nashville Money Guys podcast. It's a miracle.
Oh, you're starting.
It's a miracle.
Still
We're recording.
Texting people.
It doesn't
here.
matter. We're not that formal. It's a miracle that we're all together, in fact. So it's been me solo for quite a while because I'm the most handsome of the group, unless you're Brandon Rumbley or Jason Dodge. And then you might argue that I'm the least handsome of the group.
Our spouses.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. No, not your spouse.
Wait, what?
All right. So today, what are we going to talk about, Brandon Rumbley?
I think we're talking about the process for borrowers, how to be a good borrower on the front end, how to get the money that you need for your deal as quickly as you want to if you're going to be working with a hard money lender. And then post-closing, after you've gotten the money, how to communicate with your lender, your hard money lender. And so basically pre- and post-closing tips for how to be a good borrower.
Well, I'm bored already.
Right.
Yeah, don't click off. So here's the thing. It sounds boring, but we've got some really interesting stories that are going to kind of highlight some of the deficiencies that we have seen and why it's super important that you basically kind of understand all the information that we need and that other lenders would want as a method of actually protecting you. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today.
What's one of the most cliche things we always hear in lending or in people in real estate investing say, well, I can't do it because
I don't have the money.
I don't have money. And what do all real estate investors say?
The money's the easy part.
Right. So I think we're going to go through a little bit of that on how that makes sense and why it is actually true.
Okay.
Well, the money is the easy part if you actually have a deal.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the ticket for sure. But it is easy. If you have a good deal, hit us up, NashvilleMoneyGuys.com. Literally, if you have a good deal in the southeastern eastern part of the United States, we will lend to you. Like if you have terrible credit, it's fine. I know that seems counterintuitive, but we're looking at the deal. We're looking at, your experience as an investor. We understand that things happen, but if you've got a great deal, we're willing to overlook a whole lot of things because the worst case scenario is we end up with a deal back. Okay.
Yeah. I always tell people, really the house is qualifying for the deal, not you. So we're asset-based lenders, and so we're going to look really hard at the asset, not so hard at your financial picture.
Yeah.
We do look a little bit, but not deep.
Makes sense. All right. So where do you want to start, Brandon Rumbley?
So I think I would just say on the front end, like the more information that you can provide to your lender, the faster you're going to get the money and the easier it's going to be and the better relationship you're going to have with that lender. So the things that we want and what most hard money lenders are going to want are a detailed scope of work. So talking about a detailed scope of work would be McDonald's department because he's our general contractor. So I guess take him through what do you want to see if a deal comes in and then we've got the scope of work and it's sent over to you. What are you looking for?
It's very funny to me that people don't understand this one. Because what you're trying to do is articulate what this house is going to look like after you have completed the work. So in order for you to articulate that to anyone, your contractor, your wife, like literally anybody, you need to have a written scope of work so that you have a direction that you're going. That is the document that we would like. So on some really kind of just like what we'll get is, hey, we're going to spend $30,000 and we're going to do the kitchen and the bathroom. That is not a good answer because I don't know what you're going to do to the kitchen or the bathroom. So what we would prefer to see and what you should understand just for your own peace of mind and what, again, just communicating, like, how do you know your budget? You know your budget based on here's the tile we're going to use, here's the cabinets we're going to use, here's the toilets we're going to use, etc. Detailed scope of work.
And how do you decide that? Like if you're a new person out there, like how do you decide what you're going to do to the kitchen? What's a good way to Go to Home Depot and walk around and write down prices. Yeah.
I know this seems so
even more
stupid.
elementary though. Like when you're looking at the stuff that's been selling in that area, a good comparable sale is something that you can compare yours to and do something similar because it's been selling. So that gives you ideas of what you can do to the property to make it move.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're going to look at those comparable sales. You want to maybe be just a hair better. You don't want to be crazy better. Right. Like you don't want to put a $50,000 kitchen into a neighborhood where all the other kitchens are $10,000. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
Detailed scope of work. We don't need to belabor this much, but it is kind of shocking how like limited the information on the scope typically is. And I always wonder, like, guys, do you not know where you're going with this? What's happening right now?
The point being, it's not just something that we need as the lender. It's something that you should have as the borrower, because you need to know what your actual costs are going to be. And so it's not just a wet finger in the air of, I think this is going to be a $40K renovation, but it's actually line item by line item, knowing what your costs are going to be.
Yeah. Dodge, what's next?
So I'll step back. So the scope of work, you should probably have before you're even applying for the loan, because you've walked the property, you've got it under contract, hopefully at that point. I'm going to go to the actual application, which is on our website, NashvilleMoneyGuys.com. Lenders generally don't put things on their application that they don't need. So when you do an application for any lender, make sure you're actually filling that out, because each and every step usually is used at some part in the process to get you approved. So the more you leave out, the more that we have to track you down and get those things. And the information is usually used in filling the documents out, filling everything out for the actual closing. So I would just say, if you do the application for any lender, make sure you have time to sit down and actually have everything that they need so that it gets done quickly.
Yeah, and that's with everybody. Like, if you're going to borrow money from anybody, there is going to be a list of things that they need to see. And so just figure out what that list is, get all that stuff together, then do the application.
And I'll give you for example, how it can delay. So I won't name any names, but we had an application recently where we request your title company. If you don't have one, put NA, something like that, so we know, but somebody put in just the realtor's name, so, and their email. So we're emailing the realtor, not knowing it's a realtor, thinking it's a title company, like, hey, we need the closing date. We need this, and that. And they're like, okay, great. And we're like,
fantastic.
What?
Sounds awesome.
That's not the response we're looking for, but okay. So we don't realize until almost the very end that it is not, in fact, the title company. It is the realtor that we're communicating with. And it almost ended up delaying closing because we hadn't started the process with the actual title company. So just making sure that you're being accurate and you're being, detail in giving the information.
Because it also makes you look more competent, just as a borrower and a person. Yeah. Like, you look organized, you look like you have it together. You don't look like you're just trying to do the bare ass minimum, trying to kind of sneak a deal in.
Next on the list, pictures and videos of the property. So we're going to go look at the property regardless, because we go out and take a look at every deal that we do. But on the front end, if you've got pictures of the exterior, different angles, the up close on the HVAC unit, the roof, et cetera, as detailed photos as you can possibly get, and then a video where you've got your phone in landscape mode and you're walking very slowly through the house.
Landscape mode means hold your phone sideways, not up and down.
Yep, side to side, so the image is wide.
And put it in 0.5. So on your phone, you've got like a wide mode and then a normal mode and then a zoom mode if you have an iPhone. Put it in the widest mode that the phone has, because it's going to capture the most amount of information, and walk awkwardly slow through the house.
Yeah, and if you don't have an iPhone and you're on Android, you're probably a loser.
Nerd, Jason Dodge.
We actually have the same wide. So.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Android people apparently have wide cameras too.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, and I will say those will actually come in handy for you as well. Sorry, I'm rolling away. Those will actually come in handy for you as well as you work up your scope of work.
You have stuff to reference back to.
You go back to it multiple times and slowly and say, oh, I missed a window or I missed something. Like, you can count them all and go through that video.
Absolutely.
So it's not just something that your lender requires to be a pain in your butt. It's actually something that you will use the entire process.
All right. Let's tell a story about how basically a scope of work ended up going bad. Do you want to tell the story about the big deal in East Nashville?
The over demo?
Yeah, the over demo.
So we've had two of these, so I guess we'll just generically talk about both of them.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be more post-closing. Let's do that in post-closing. Let's stick with pre-closing right now. So post-closing, we'll do what you should communicate, how you should communicate with your lender after you actually have the money. But moving pre-closing still, we got to talk about comps.
Okay.
So
I'm just getting bored, and I want to make sure that no one else is getting bored. But stick around. It's okay. Stick around.
It's a good
because
story.
We've got great stories coming. Go ahead, comps.
all right, so we did scope of work, we did pictures and videos. Comps would be your last one that you have to have, and it just makes your lender's job easier. So if you can send over a package that's like, hey, I'm shooting for a $450,000 ARV after repair value, and we're going to evaluate the deal based on that. If you actually have some evidence to show us as to why it's going to be worth $450,000, then include all of those comps with your application so that you're sending it over. And so, if you think about we have not hundreds, but tens of deals that come in every week that we're taking a look at. And if we've got one that's like, okay, here's the pictures, here are the videos, here's a very detailed scope of work, here are all the comps that are ready to go and justify the ARV. They've even sent in, if we don't have a relationship already, you've sent in previous projects, like here's some before and afters of what I did before. All the information that we can possibly want, that you just hand it to us on a golden platter, silver platter, then we're going to look at your deal first. And then these others that are piled up over here and that are like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to do this and this, and I think it's going to cost $50K, but I don't actually have any pictures of the house. You're going to get your money faster and easier than these people over here who don't have all of that information.
And the next time you send a deal to us, we're going to be much more apt to be excited about working with you. And again, that goes for any lender. It's not just us.
Yep. All right. So you've done all those things. You got the money from us. You closed the deal. And you're now beginning work on the house.
Yeah.
Story time.
Fun story time.
Fun story time.
So we had a deal recently that was a house, and it also had an additional lot with it that all the collateral made sense after repair value were checked out. And so we're driving by looking at some other deals, and I drive by this project and take a picture of what's left of the house.
And I'll share an image here. So if you're watching the YouTube channel, you'll be seeing this. But if you are listening on the podcast, imagine a wood deck, just a flat wood deck that used to be a house.
So I send the picture to my team and say something like, "Is this a problem?" ? And then I immediately call the borrower and talk with the borrower, and they say, "Oh yeah, the foundation was a lot worse than we thought. Like we're probably going to have to tear that down." And I said, "No, you're not."
But explain to people why that's a problem. Because people may not understand why.
Well, and they hadn't
we've got
told
the
us.
loan.
This would not have happened if you hadn't driven by.
Yeah.
They would have just torn the house down, and we would not have known about it.
Correct. Yeah. Like they were just planning like, "Oh, well, sorry, the demo took a lot more than we thought it was going to. So at this point, we're just going to have to start over." And, so I said, "Well, yeah, you can't really do that. It's actually a default in your agreement if you stray outside of the scope of work that you gave us. Now, it may be something that needs to be done. So, we may come look at the property and go, you're right, this does have to be torn down and you got to start over. But that's a part in the process where you would need to go, hey, I started demoing the house out, and it looks like we're going to have to demo a lot more than we initially thought we were going to. Let's talk about this, and how can we rework the draw schedule?" And so it's important, if you do have issues that arise, when you have issues that arise in your rehab, that you communicate with your lender and make sure that you're all on the same page.
Yeah, and we met out on site, and I walked through the house and looked at basically what they were looking at, and I said, I do not think you guys should have done what you did. I don't think you should demo the house down. I don't think, because they demoed it further actually after we looked at it. And I don't think that was the right decision. I think that they were leaving money on the table, and I think that they were being really conservative. So I understand maybe why, but I still think that the house was completely salvageable as of just a standard rehab, full on gut to the studs. But yeah, I think that their contractor freaked them out. And
which I guess is another point. Like if you're working with a hard money lender, chances are they once were a real estate investor who did the same type of deals that you're doing, and likely they did a lot more of them than you've done. And so lean on those people that you're working with that are your lenders to go, hey, I'm running into this. Do you have any ideas? So like we actually want to be partners with our borrowers so that they do great deals, and then we make good money, they make good money, and everyone's happy.
For sure. All right. So, I mean, that's like, this doesn't have to be terribly long. Is there anything else that we need to do as far as an after?
Communicating when the property's under contract.
Yeah.
Is another one. So
Not needing draws in an emergency, not being like, hey, I need money tomorrow. That's a big deal. Because again, it makes you look like you didn't plan very well. Like, I've got to pay all my guys tomorrow. I need a draw right now.
Yeah, definitely on the draw things, think about 2 weeks in advance. You know, like it takes a little while to get money, and especially if there's inspections involved, which there usually are.
Yeah, so. For sure. And again, it makes us as the lender feel like, okay, these people know what they're doing. They have their stuff together because they're giving us enough notice. And even if you called me and said, hey, we're finishing up these 2 items, so I'm thinking it's going to be Wednesday of next week, I put a calendar reminder for Wednesday and I go check the house. And if you didn't quite get done, then okay, cool. But it makes me feel like you're more professional when I go look to see that you're on track and you're giving us some time for draws. All right. I think this was good. I think this is a good way for you to, this just helps in general, like understanding the full scope of work so that you can have a contractor bid your job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think there is no downsides to being a very detailed person when you're going through this process. And it is something personally that I have struggled with in the past, but I've seen fruits when I have brought people onto the team or when I have gotten involved with people that are more detail oriented than myself. I'm pointing at Jason Dodge right now.
Do we have a sample of a scope of work we could share with people?
Yeah. So, and we also have one. If you, let's see, if you go to NashvilleMoneyGuys.com or if you email loans@NashvilleMoneyGuys.com, we can send you an example scope of exactly what we would use. And it's a really, really nice detailed sheet that's a full-on detailed walkthrough, and it kind of gives you the eyes to actually look through when you're walking through a house. Yeah, that's probably best. Email loans@NashvilleMoneyGuys.com. And we'll have Samantha send you something over. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for watching. It was nice to have all 3 of us here again. It's a miracle. Nice. Yeah, check us out, NashvilleMoneyGuys.com, for all your hard money needs in the southeastern part of the United States. Thanks for watching.